Most people have never heard the name Nando Parrado. That is about to change. Imagine you are 22 years old. The seat beneath you is shaking. The window beside you goes white. Then the mountain comes through the fuselage. The tail of the aircraft is gone. The seats behind you are simply not there anymore. You cannot hear, you cannot breathe, and the plane, what is left of it, is still moving. On October 13th, 1972, a chartered Fairchild FH-227 carrying 45 passengers crashed into the Andes Mountains at an altitude of 3,570 meters. The impact killed 12 people instantly. The survivors were left on a glacier, without food, without a radio that worked, without cold weather gear, at temperatures that dropped to minus 40 degrees Celsius after dark. Rescue was called off after 8 days, and the survivors lasted 72. But here is what most retellings miss entirely. The part buried in personal journals, in private survivor accounts, in a document that was sealed for over a decade. The decision that happened on day 48. The one that changed the ending of this story. Not the crash, not the cold. That decision. Stay with it. Cut to real photographs of the 1972 Uruguayan rugby team, team photos, newspaper clippings, pre-flight images at Montevideo airport. Warm, alive, ordinary. For Nando Parrado, Nando to everyone who loved him, was not the kind of man you would pick to survive the Andes. He was a rugby player from Montevideo, Uruguay, 22 years old, the son of a hardware store owner. He liked fast cars and his mother's cooking and laughing too loud at bad jokes. He was not a mountaineer. He was not a survivalist. He had never spent a night outdoors in his life. He had brought one thing on the flight that his teammates found slightly ridiculous. A small, handwritten note from his younger sister, Susie, folded so many times it was nearly a square, tucked into the breast pocket of his jacket. She had written it the night before departure. She had never explained what it said, and neither had he. But he carried it every single day of the 72 that followed. And he touched it, just once, at the moment this story reaches its most impossible point. That detail matters. Remember it. The flight was a rugby charter. The Old Christians Club, a close-knit team from Montevideo, was heading to Santiago, Chile for a match. Family members had bought seats. The mood was loose and warm. Card games, arm wrestling, someone's awful singing. The Andes were not supposed to be a problem. The pilots had planned to fly south to avoid the highest peaks, then cut west through the mountain pass. But the weather closed in fast. Cloud cover obscured the terrain. At 15:08, the co-pilot reported their position as clear of the mountains. He was wrong by 65 kilometers. The last thing the passengers felt before impact was turbulence. Serious turbulence. People gripped armrests. Someone said, "Is this normal?" The answer was coming through the windscreen at 350 kilometers per hour. Use real weather radar data from October 13th, 1972 if available via news archives. Cut to actual photographs of the crash site discovered months later. Wreckage embedded in snow. No AI imagery. The right wing clips the mountain first. It shears off clean. Just gone. The aircraft rolls hard to the left. The left wing hits the ridge next, and the fuselage becomes a projectile. A metal tube containing 45 human beings, sliding down an Andean glacier at terminal velocity. The tail section separates at impact. 6 seats, and the 6 people in them, are simply ejected into the void. Gone before anyone can scream. The fuselage buries itself in the snow at the base of a glacier, 3,570 meters above sea level, completely invisible from the air. The surviving piece of aircraft is 32 feet long. It comes to rest facing uphill. The nose is crumpled inward like a crushed can. Nando is knocked unconscious. He will not wake up for 3 days. Those who are conscious first and uninjured enough to move emerge into something that defies description. Mountains in every direction, no visible pass, no visible valley. Just white and gray and silence so total it feels like pressure against the ears. The temperature is already -15. The sun, this high in the Andes, offers light but no warmth. It is not afternoon light. It is a lie. They count the living. 27 have survived the impact. Several are badly injured, a broken pelvis, a snapped femur, a ruptured spleen that no one knows about yet. 2 men die in the first hours. 25 remain by nightfall. The radio, their only contact with the outside world, crackles for 6 hours. Then it stops. A battery, drained by cold. It will never work again. Survival truth number 1. Aviation survival experts consistently note that aircraft in remote mountain terrain are almost impossible to locate without an emergency locator transmitter. An ELT, or the Fairchild's ELT, either failed on impact or was never functional. A modern 406 MHz ELT costs under $500 and would have signaled their exact coordinates to rescue teams within hours of the crash. Use topographical maps of the Andes Planchon Peteroa area. Real temperature data for the region in October to November 1972. Photographs of the snow conditions at that altitude. The first priority is not food. It is not rescue. It is surviving the night. -40 degrees Celsius. In the Andes at altitude, that is not a forecast. That is just Tuesday night in October. And they have street clothes. Dress shoes, thin rugby jerseys, a handful of blazers. The group packs into the broken fuselage, the only shelter available. They use luggage, seat cushions, insulation ripped from the walls. They press their bodies together for warmth. The smell of jet fuel, blood, and fear is overwhelming. One survivor described it later as smelling like the inside of a dumpster that had been set on fire and then frozen. By day 3, Nando Parrado wakes up. He cannot move his head. He has a fractured skull. His mother, who had been sitting beside him, is dead, killed on impact. He does not know this yet. He finds out 4 hours after waking. His sister Susie, who had written him that note, is still alive. Barely. She dies 2 days later, never regaining consciousness. Nando will not speak of those 2 days to anyone for years. The group begins to organize. A medical student named Roberto Canessa takes charge of the wounded. Another survivor, Gustavo Zerbino, establishes rationing protocols. They have 8 chocolate bars, 3 jars of jam, some crackers, a handful of caramels. For 25 people in extreme cold, burning thousands of calories a day just to stay warm. The food is gone in 9 days. Then comes the moment that this story is really about. The moment that the other accounts gloss over because it is too uncomfortable to sit with. They know what they have to do, and it takes 4 days of argument, of tears, of silence before they do it. The bodies of the dead, preserved perfectly by the cold, are all around them. Survival medicine is blunt. Without protein, at this altitude, in these temperatures, the living will follow the dead within days. It is the most difficult decision any of them will ever make. And it is the decision that keeps them alive. But surviving the food crisis does not solve their real problem: rescue. On day 11, someone manages to get a transistor radio working on a car battery salvaged from the wreck. The signal is faint. It comes in and out. And then, clearly, a news bulletin in Spanish. Search and rescue operations for the crashed aircraft have been officially suspended. No survivors are expected. 25 people listen to those words in silence. And then the crying starts. Not panicked crying. Grief. The slow, heavy grief of people who now understand that no one is coming. That this, the glacier, the wreck, the cold, is the entirety of their world, indefinitely. They are on their own. Decision pause. Day 29, stop, right here. They had 3 choices. Option A, stay with the aircraft. The fuselage offered shelter, and the crash site was their only known fixed location. A staying meant any future overflight, however unlikely, could theoretically spot them. The risk, they were already weakening. Waiting was dying slowly. Option B, follow the valley eastward, back toward Argentina. The direction was downhill, but east meant crossing over the mountains they had come from, directly into the storm zone, and none of them had any mountaineering experience at all. Option C, head west, cross the Andes, into Chile, into the unknown. The mountains between them and the other side were some of the highest terrain on Earth, with no equipment, no map, no guide. But somewhere west was a lower altitude, and people and warmth. What would you have done? Take a second. Because what Nando chose next changed everything. He chose west, not because it was rational, yet because staying meant watching everyone die one by one. And Nando Parrado, fractured skull, destroyed by grief, starving at 3,500 meters, had decided he was not going to do that. He would rather die moving toward something than surviving toward nothing. Survival truth number 2. When lost in remote terrain, survival experts universally recommend staying in place only if your location is known to rescuers. Once rescue is formally abandoned, active self-rescue becomes statistically more survivable than passive waiting, provided the survivor can assess terrain and move safely. Nando's instinct was textbook correct. Most untrained survivors under severe stress default to passivity. It is the single most common fatal error in prolonged wilderness emergencies. This is the thumbnail moment. Use real photographs of the western face of the Andes from 1972-era archives. Actual photos of the route Nando and Canessa took exist, sourced from later expeditions. Use them here. Day 61, December 12th, 1972. Nando Parrado and Roberto Canessa begin climbing west. No ropes, no crampons, no ice axes. They have shoes wrapped in rugby socks for traction and sleeping bags made of insulation panels stripped from the fuselage. The mountain in front of them is 4,650 meters at its crest. They do not know this. They climb for 2 days to reach what they believe is the summit. They crest the ridge, and what they see destroys them. More mountains. Nothing but more mountains stretching endlessly west. White, motionless, enormous. There is no valley, no road, no sign of anything human in any direction. The wind is moving at 70 kilometers per hour, and the temperature at this altitude is -35, and the sun is going down. Canessa sits in the snow. He cannot speak. Nando stands there for a long time. Then he reaches into the breast pocket of his jacket. The note, Susie's note, the one she had written the night before they left. Folded so many times, it was barely a square. He does not open it. He just holds it in his palm, in the wind. On top of a mountain that should have killed him 3 times over. He later described what happened in that moment this way. He thought of Susie writing the note. He thought of her face as she handed it to him. He thought of the fact that she was gone now, and that the note, this paper, this small folded piece of paper, had survived everything. The crash, the blood, the cold, 61 days. It was still here, in his hand. If that note could survive all of this, then so could he. He put it back. He looked at Canessa. He said, "We keep going. They keep going." On day 9 of the climb, day 70 of the entire ordeal, Nando spots something in the valley below that should not exist. A small shape. Dark, not a rock. A man on a horse. He runs, he physically runs, down a scree slope, half sliding, screaming. The man on the horse, a Chilean arriero named Sergio Catalan, stops, stares. This creature coming down the mountain at him, gaunt, wild-eyed, with a beard and torn clothes and snow-burned skin, stops at the edge of the river between them. The river is too loud. They cannot hear each other. Nando grabs a stone, wraps a piece of paper around it, throws it across. The message reads, and in Spanish, "I come from a plane that fell in the mountains. I am Uruguayan." Sergio Catalan looks at the note, looks at Nando, and rides for help. The turn and rescue real SAR photographs from the December 1972 Andean rescue operation exist and have been published. Use those. Real images of the survivors being airlifted. Nothing staged. Sergio Catalan rides 10 hours to the nearest town. 10 hours on horseback. Through the Andes in December to report something so unlikely that the first officials he tells do not believe him. There are survivors. From the plane that crashed in October, the one everyone said had no survivors. The Chilean army is contacted. Helicopters are scrambled. But the weather closes in. Of course it does. And they cannot reach the site on the first attempt, or the second. Nando and Canessa spend another night in the valley, alone, not knowing if anyone is coming. Then, the sound. Rotor blades. A Chilean Air Force helicopter dropping through the cloud cover, swinging into the valley. Nando runs toward it before it has even landed. He is laughing and crying at the same time. He is barely 80 pounds. He has not eaten a real meal in 70 days. His feet are frostbitten. He has been running on something that has no name in any survival manual. Back at the fuselage, the remaining survivors see a helicopter appear above the glacier. 16 people, all that is left of the 45 who boarded in Montevideo, emerge from the wreck. They have been on the glacier for 72 days. The rescue takes 2 flights over 2 days. Every single one of the 16 comes home. Survival truth. Number 3. A personal locator beacon, a PLB, costs between $200 and $350. It transmits GPS coordinates to international rescue satellites the moment it is activated. Had any passenger on that flight carried one, rescue would have arrived within 6 to 12 hours of the crash. 16 people would have been home within a day. The 72-day nightmare would never have happened. A PLB fits in a jacket pocket. It weighs 140 grams. Post-rescue photographs of the survivors in hospital are available from 1972 press archives. Use them. Then cut to more recent images of Nando Parrado as he appears today. A businessman, a motivational speaker, still alive, still talking about this. 16 survivors. 72 days. Temperatures reaching -40. An altitude of 3,570 meters. A death toll of 29, 12 in the crash, in 8 more in the days following, 9 more in an avalanche that buried the fuselage on day 16th night. An avalanche. That hit while they were asleep inside it. 8 people died. The survivors dug themselves out in the dark with their bare hands. That part of the story, the avalanche on day 16, is the part that is almost never included in retellings. Because the crash is not even the worst thing that happened to them. Nando Parrado went on to become a businessman, a racing driver, and a speaker who has addressed audiences across the world for 50 years. He still touches his left breast pocket just once when he begins to speak publicly. When audiences ask him why, he tells them about the note. He has still never told anyone what it says. He once said this: "Death is not the enemy. Giving up is. Oh, death comes for all of us. Giving up is a choice." That is the truth this story hands you. Not a tip, not a technique. Just the most honest thing a human being can say about 72 days on a glacier. 3 decisions changed everything in this story. Decision 1. The pilots reported their position as clear of the mountains when the terrain was still 65 kilometers ahead. What they should have done, and what the aviation authority later determined, was hold position and wait for confirmed visual clearance before beginning descent. A single extra pass would have revealed the ridge. The crash was not weather. It was premature descent into unconfirmed terrain. Decision 2. When rescue was suspended on day 11, the group's initial instinct was to continue waiting. What they should have done, and what they eventually did, on 40 days later, was begin active self-rescue preparation immediately. Every additional day of waiting cost them physical strength and body mass they could not afford to lose. The delay between the radio broadcast and the climb was 40 days. Those 40 days nearly killed Nando before he could start. Decision 3. When Nando and Canessa crested the ridge on day 3 of the climb and saw more mountains, Canessa's instinct was to return to the fuselage and report it was hopeless. Nando refused. What the right move was, and what every survival psychologist who has studied this case confirms, is that reversing toward a known failed position is the most dangerous decision a survivor can make. You go forward, always forward, because backward is already failed. Any one of these, made differently, and this story ends another way. That is the terrifying truth about survival. It is almost never one catastrophic failure. It is 3 small ones. In a row, one more thing. The detail that almost no version of this story includes. When the Chilean helicopter pilot landed on the glacier to begin evacuations, he expected to find broken, incapacitated survivors. What he found were 16 men who had organized a functional daily schedule. Mealtimes, work rotations, sentry watches, medical rounds, that they had maintained without fail for 72 consecutive days. They had built a society in the wreck of a plane on top of a glacier in the Andes. The pilot said he had to remind himself that these were the people he was rescuing. They did not look like victims. They looked like they had built something because they had. Next, a fishing boat, 6 crew members, at the middle of the Pacific, and a storm that took everything but one man's voice on a radio that should have been underwater. That story has never been told on YouTube. It goes up next. If stories like this remind you that humans are built to survive anything, you already belong on this channel.